Raspberry jam. A raspberry jam. Yes, ma'am, we're making a raspberry jam. Making a raspberry jam later today. These have been in the freezer. It's best when you're making berry jams and jellies to freeze your berries first, because then it breaks the cell walls and it makes a lot more juice. So I just leave these out here. There's about 10 cups in here. And I'm gonna cook them down and make some jam tomorrow. Managed to pick a gallon bag of blackberries this past growing season, so I'm gonna also be doing blackberry jam tomorrow and maybe mix some berries too. I'm gonna experiment with different ingredients on these jams tomorrow, so we'll see how it goes. So these raspberries have thawed out nice and they're very juicy. So what I always do is take a bunch of the juice and put it in some green tea and steep it, and then we put it back in there. That way I'm getting some green tea, healing, healthy properties of the green tea infused in the jam. So we're gonna go ahead and steep that for several minutes and then just put it back in there and go on. So you want to use a good green tea for this, and I put 2 in here since I have about maybe 2 or 3 batches of jam out of what's here. Another thing I like to add to my jams is extra vitamin C. The ascorbic acid helps keep the acidity level up, as well as ascorbic acid is what keeps the fruits from turning brown. You don't have that with apples and pears and stuff that would turn brown. So I just sprinkle about a tablespoon in per batch or so. The blackberries aren't very juicy, so I'm probably not gonna put green tea in here, but instead I'm gonna experiment with some red wine and or balsamic vinegar when I make that, to add a little juice to those. These are nice and juicy. So once the tea is done steeping, then we'll just go ahead and batch it out, make the jam. I'm using Pomona Pectin for this recipe. Pomona Pectin costs a little bit more, but it's far superior, and it consists of pectin and then a packet of calcium, and then you make calcium water with that. And you store that calcium water in your refrigerator for months at a time. You use a lot less sugar with Pomona Pectin. This recipe that I'm using will use about 2 cups of sugar, and if you use regular pectin, you'd be about 10 cups of sugar. So it's much better to use Pomona Pectin, I think. So when you use Pomona Pectin, you add the calcium water to your cooked fruit that you're cooking, and you add the powdered pectin to the sugar and sift those together and add them once you get your mixture boiling. So I'm just going to be adding 3 teaspoons of the pectin to the sugar here, and that's for 1.5 batches. I used 2.5 cups sugar, so I think that'll be fine. So once you get your fruit and lemon juice and calcium water boiling real good, we're going to add the sugar and the pectin and cook it for 2 minutes, and then add it to jars. I just want to put this in here kind of slow and continuously stir. And I already mixed the pectin into this sugar mix, so it's already thickening up pretty good. And you add all this sugar, and then we're going to cook it for 2 minutes, and then just put it in some jars, and that'll be that. So this has been boiling for about 2 minutes now with the sugar in there. So we are going to go ahead and turn the heat off and ladle it into jars for processing. These jars are all nice and clean and sterile. It's pretty liquidy right now, but once it cools, it'll gel real nice. So you want to add it to about 1/4 inch of headspace. I'm going to go ahead and fill up all these jars. So I got all these jars filled up, and you want to make sure you wipe the rims off and the threads off of all these jars so that you can get a good seal. Once you get that all done, then you're going to add the lids and add it to the water bath canner. I've already got that water boiling, so we're set there. Just put that on there nice. Make sure you screw it on completely. Make it snug. You don't want to make it too tight. And these jars are hot, so go ahead and lid these all up. So there's the water. I got these all jarred up, so you're just going to add them to the hot water bath. And these are going to be in here about 11 minutes for my altitude. And then we'll take them out and just start listening for the pops. Alright, these have been boiling for 11 minutes. Water's nice and clean, so that means no breaks. So I'm going to just go ahead and take them out and wait for them to ping. There's a ping. Ooh, there are all kinds of pinging. So all these raspberry jams have sealed. You can see they've gelled up real good. They're not running all over. They're cooled off. And they're all sealed. And they look beautiful. So now I'm going to work on blackberry jam. I mashed these down, and I'm going to follow a recipe I found on the Pomona website for a blackberry port wine jam. But I'm going to use this wine that I bought for a different recipe, and my husband doesn't really like the taste of it. I made Cranberry Mostarda with that wine. So I'm going to make half of it with that and some spices and see how it turns out. I have 2 cups of blackberries, a cup of red dark wine, lemon juice, and the calcium water in here, and it's boiling pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and add the pectin sugar mixture to this and get it boiling for a good 2 minutes, and then jar it up. Just pulled these blackberry wine jams out, and they look and smell, and I can attest to the fact that they taste delicious. It's very hot. Looks like they might be kind of... I'm going to turn them upside down after they're sealed so that because the seeds are floating to the top. And not that it matters, you can stir them in there, but just like the way to make things look nice. But yeah, I think these are a definite success. So I'm cooking the last batch of jam for today. This is blackberries, and I put in, I got some of the juice from it and heated it up with some goji raspberry green tea, so that will give it, you know, a little more berry flavor. I'm going to add the sugar to this in a couple of minutes and cook it down, jar it up and can it, and then we'll be done. So I got all these done today, and they all sealed except for one, and that was the last batch. And it looked Nice and gelled. They're not running all over. Didn't make sauce. Made jam. Raspberries nice and bright. And these are just plain blackberries. I turned them upside down while they were going because they were kind of separating. Like this one you can see a little bit maybe that the seeds are there, but no big whoop, you can just stir it in. But yes, it's very tasty, and today was a success at making jam during the snowstorm. So it's been about 24 hours since I made the jam. So now, as you can see, they're all set beautifully. They're not runny or anything. Now I always go in and take these rings off so that you can wash the jar. Sometimes stuff seeps. Plus that way you don't have to buy lids all the time, or rings all the time. And besides, moisture gets underneath there and they can rust. So I always take them off for storage and make sure I wipe all the jars down real good. But here's the raspberry and here's the blackberry. Beautiful.